Good morning, good afternoon to everyone tuning in today to hear from some remarkable women who are in the forefront of the climate fight in their communities and globally. I'm Elizabeth Cousens, and I'm lucky to lead the UN Foundation, the proud home of Girl Up. And I'm so eager to talk with three young women who are fierce and fearless about fighting for a better, fairer, and healthier world. Autumn Peltier, Chief Water Commissioner for the Xiye Nation, who has been honored at the United Nations, named one of the world's 100 most inspiring and influential women, and a tireless advocate for clean water. Xiye Bastida, a climate justice activist and lead organizer of the Fridays for Future movement, also honored by the UN, born and raised in Mexico and now based in New York City. And Helena, a climate and human rights activist who has fought for Indigenous people's rights from the Ecuadorian Amazon to Finland. And you helped found the Polluters Out movement that has taken the fossil fuel industry on anew in the context of climate action. All of you are also fierce champions of Indigenous people's rights, which is so intrinsically connected to the climate crisis. And I know that's one of the issues we'll get into. So it won't surprise anyone in this conversation that girls and women have a disproportionate stake and disproportionate potential in solutions to the climate crisis. Many generations of poor decision-making and priorities that have been out of whack have gotten us into this mess. And you all know that those are the many generations in which decisions and priorities have not predominantly been set by girls and women. Yet the negative consequences hit girls and women the hardest. Girls are more affected by natural disasters than boys. They're more often tasked with helping their families adapt to climate impacts. They're more likely to be pulled from school in times of crisis, and they're more at risk of violence and early marriage when displaced from their homes or pulled out of schools. The impacts of COVID-19 only makes all of those vulnerabilities more acute. But there's also a growing body of research that shows that when women lead, when they make decisions, when they're given real authority, economic, social, and climate policies are far more ambitious and they're more fair. So I want to thank you all for being here, for all the leadership you show every day. And I'm just so thrilled and honored to speak with you all. So can we start, if I ask you all to introduce yourself in turn and just share with everyone what first triggered your passion for climate activism? Autumn, why don't we start with you?
Bonjour, Wikwemikong, Wikwemikong. My name is Autumn Peltier. I'm 15 years old, and I'm an environmental activist. And so what really inspired my my drive to do the work that I'm doing is when I was years old, I was attending a water ceremony, and in the First Nations community where I was attending the water ceremony, there was signs all over the wall that said, "Don't drink the water, not for consumption," and "Don't wash your hands with the water." And I didn't know what any of that meant because I was only 8 years old. But I asked my mom what it meant, and then she explained to me that the community had been on a boil water advisory for over 15 years. And what really hit me was that there was kids that are my age and younger that didn't know what it was like or never knew what it was like to drink water from a tap or wash their hands from a tap. And for me, that really affected me in a way, and that's why I do what I do.
Wonderful. Xiye, why don't I turn next to you?
Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Xiye Bastida. I'm from the Otomi-Toltec Indigenous community in the highlands of central Mexico, and I'm 18 years old. I'm a climate justice activist currently based in New York. And right now I found myself in my community in Mexico. What triggered my climate activism was that I was raised with the philosophy that Indigenous peoples take care of the earth because Mother Earth takes care of us. And when I saw that people were disrupting that connection, polluting, extracting, that broke my heart. Because when you grow up, you think that everybody thinks the same way you do, and you think that everybody has the same connection that you do. And when I saw that that wasn't true, I made it my mission to change people's mindsets when it comes to caring for Mother Earth. And something that really pushed me when I was 15 years old was that my hometown here in Mexico flooded. And that showed me that the climate crisis is happening right now. And it's something that we have to address as promptly as possible because people have this like psychological distance when thinking about the climate crisis. So Indigenous communities have to say, it's already affecting us and it will affect you too if we don't do something right now.
That's right, it's not in the future, it's here. Helena, let me turn to you next.
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me. Such an honor to be here with Xiye and Autumn and you, Elizabeth. What triggered my activism, or what I don't actually like view it as activism, it's always been part of my life, I guess, is that my entire community has always been in this, been fighting for our territories and been fighting for our rights. And I think what kind of was the tipping point of this was that my community was targeted by oil companies, and the government concessioned my community and our territory to an oil company without our consent, which made my community to get into this into years of fighting against the oil companies and against the government to defend our people, to defend our lands. And I grew up in this entire process, seeing how the leaders in my community, my uncles, my neighbors, my entire community having to go to the city, they had to leave their families, they had to leave our community to go and protect us from this. And I saw this, how much effort and energy and they put into this, and I think that taught me, that showed me that this is so important, that everything that surrounds us, how important it is to us, that we, my community would not be able to survive without having all the forests around us or the rivers, and we need to protect that every day to be able to continue to live. And when I grew older, I connected the oil companies with climate change. The same people, the same industry that were trying to destroy my home was also contributing to a much bigger issue in the entire world. And I think it is my responsibility, and it's our responsibility as youth and as people of the earth to protect it. And I've followed in the footsteps of my community and of my people to keep protecting it. My elders protected it for me, for my generation, for my siblings, and that is what I have to do for the coming generations.
Well, and I'm so humbled by all of your experiences and just the bravery that you show. You all are on the front lines of some of the hardest and sharpest edges of these issues. And I hope everyone listening understands how much courage that also takes. I want to start by asking you all a question about how you get these messages out to wider communities. We've had so many decades of environmental activism that has made important headway, but has just gotten stuck and not reached some of the wider audiences that have more influence, power, and reach. So from your experience, just how do you tackle that challenge, and what do you think are the best ways to engage and mobilize wider publics around these issues? Helena, why don't I ask you? I'll start with you. We'll go in reverse order.
With me?
Sure.
Yeah. I think that what I started off with was telling my own story. I think that a lot of people are not aware of what is going on in the Amazon. At least people were not a few years ago, and not even here in my country, in Ecuador, do people know what is happening 20 minutes away from them. They did not know that this was happening to my community, that we were fighting, and we were absolutely not taken into account in the decisions that were taken regarding my community. So I think storytelling and telling people what is going on, creating awareness and speaking up about what is going on, tell your realities and make people understand your realities as well, because a lot of times there are people that want to help and they come here and they do not understand how it works here. We live in a completely different way than people do on the outside, in the cities or in other countries, and that just does not work here in our communities, in our cultures, and in our environment. And by explaining to people about our realities and our fights and what is important to us and our beliefs, I think that we can reach people, and we can, what Xiye was saying, that we are losing this connection. I think that by doing that, we can share our connections with other people. And I think that is so important right now in these times, that we reconnect and that we are able to appreciate our earth and our surroundings.
Yeah, and Autumn, how do you get your story out?
Well, for me, the way I spread my message, I mainly public speak in front of people. That's kind of what I'm well known for. And really, another thing I like do to spread my message is what my Auntie Josephine created. She created something called the Water Walk, and she created this 15 years ago. And what you do there is you walk around a body of water, and you're praying for the water, and you're raising awareness as you walk. And so that's kind of like the main things I do. And I think another really important part of raising awareness on your issue is social media, because everyone is in social media, everyone is on social media, and I feel like when it has a bigger impact on the millennials and Gen Z, because we're all on social media. So I just think that's the best way to spread our message, and that's how I spread mine.
Xiye, how about you?
So for me, first of all, I have to agree with Helena in storytelling reaches way more people than data does. And that's something that we as climate activists have had to learn. And for some of us, I think that for us, it's not as hard to tell our stories because we were raised with storytelling. But for a lot of people, it's harder to be vulnerable. So we have to allow people to have these spaces to share when they first became connected to Mother Earth and how they're fighting to protect Mother Earth. So for me, it's really about recognizing what doesn't allow people to be vulnerable, what doesn't allow people to act on climate. And I found through my research that there's 7 psychological reasons why. The first is that it's too far away in the future. That's what the media used to say. And now we're actually saying with the Australian bushfires, with the burning of the Amazon, that is happening right now. The second thing is the finite pool of worry. People have other things to worry about, especially low-income communities who worry more about getting food on the table than the environment, right? So when you connect how your quality of life is improved with caring about the environment, then that's how you connect people who have other worries rather than just being a climate activist, which doesn't really happen in Indigenous communities because the nature of Indigenous peoples is to care for Mother Earth. So it's different with our culture. And then it's emotional numbing. A lot of people, they just see the climate crisis as too overbearing to do anything. And the antidote for hopelessness is action. So that's what we try to communicate. Then confirmation bias or motivated reasoning, which ties a lot with ideology. Just basically anything you hear, you'll twist it around to fit your own. And we have to expand people's minds. And then the status quo. So whatever the majority does, you will do. And now we are actually switching the status quo to caring about Mother Earth through the youth climate movement. So that's how I get people to act, by first analyzing why they don't, and then sharing my story to see how they can.
Thank you so much to all of you. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I wish we could go on so much longer. What I hear from all of you, though, is just first of all, just the incredible courage and leadership and authenticity that you show in your communities and in the world. And I'm just, again, very, very honored to spend this time with you. I also hear from all of you just a powerful call for holistic solutions, for understanding that we don't have disconnects between our environment and our economies and our societies and our justice institutions, et cetera. They're all bound up as one, and we need to tackle those things together. And I hear a very strong and important challenge to politicians and leaders around the world to take seriously the fact that their constituents, people's lives are on the line at stake. And that's what we need them to focus on in those roles that they have that have such influence in the world. And I hope that people listening really do hear your call to action and your challenge to